Morning, guys. It's really good to see you all here today. So, as Mike said, I'm going to talk a little bit about attention today. So, just to kind of tell you a bit more about me. So, I'm a digital behavioural scientist, and you're probably like, what? Never heard of that before. That's a made-up one. To tell you what I do, you would go to a therapist if you wanted to speak about your own behaviour and try to overcome your problems. Brands come to me when they want to understand more about their customers and they want to work through some issues that they may be experiencing, how to catch more attention, how to sell more, that type of thing. So as Mick said, I've been travelling all around about the world this past year, and I've been really talking about what I'm going to speak to you guys today about the new metrics that we can use from social media conversations to help you capture more attention online. So, I tend to work with large organisations just now, but I want to see where you guys fit into this. So we should have had a polling question up there. Okay, so does anybody currently analyse social media conversations? Yes? No? Don't know? Yes? Oh, here we go, we're moving. So more people than not, 67% are analysing social media conversations just now. So last year, I carried out a bit of research, and I asked a lot of people if they were analysing social media conversations. And what they came back to say is that 96% of them were measuring content performance. Everybody, when you're measuring, is that what you're looking at, content performance? See a lot of shaking heads. Okay, 46 were audience research, and then we had brand research and brand performance. So I thought I would dig a little deeper to actually find out what people were trying to do with all of that, because there's one thing measuring, but things that I've learned is that sometimes you're focusing in on the wrong measurements because you're being led by tools. So when I went into that, I found that actually what we were looking at was customer experience branding. We're wanting to create new products, new services. We're wanting to create new content. We're wanting to create immersive experiences. So I dug, and I found that people were analysing the wrong things. And they were stuck in a perpetual state of marking their own homework, I call it. So I've made a way to be able to get that and actually being able to use science and being able to use the conversations that your audience and your customers are already having to help you grab more attention. Because your audience actually tells you in all their digital footprint how you should engage with them. You just need to look at the data in the right way. So for me, the confusion over what to analyse starts with the tools. There are so many tools out there. There's over 1,000 different tools that analyse social media conversations. And they're all relatively similar, and they all look for big numbers generally. Even the ones that say they analyse qualitatively, they tend to focus on what's got the most conversation. That's not necessarily the right conversation. And then you get a lot of graphs, and they're very nice graphs, and they kind of look like that. What the hell are you supposed to do with this? Like, there's not that much you can do with that. It looks really pretty, and when you see it, you go, oh, and then you go, I don't know what that says. And it doesn't really tell you that anything very interesting at all, although it looks really nice. So the place that I start is a place about understanding human behaviour. Now, my way of doing it is by understanding the non-conscious drivers and the non-conscious signals in all of those social media conversations. And there's a few reasons why. So our non-conscious actually drives our decisions that we make. It can actually be 8 to 12 seconds faster. So if we're looking at items on a shelf, our non-conscious will decide 8 to 12 seconds faster before we actually reach out to pick the one that we want. So we need to understand what drives that. Now, this is completely unknown to us most of the time. So our drivers of behaviour and choices are hidden from conscious thought, and our decisions are rarely rational. And then if you start to look at how we view brands, they're actually made up of a web of memories. And it's those memories that are extremely important, and that dictates a lot of our behaviour towards brands. So the purpose of content, which I've come to find, is to grab attention, to provoke interest, and then to convert action. Now, this action needs to be mutually beneficial. It may be engaging with that piece of content, it may be going through into a larger piece of content, or it may be coming through to purchase. We have to think about what that action is that we're trying to do. So, attention's got a lot of attention recently. Gary Vaynerchuk, he day trades attention. So, I wanted to see at the start of this, what is attention? and kind of what affects attention. And this is what attention looks like online. So in the 6 metrics that I'm about to present to you, I went out to work with my neuroscientists in Serbia, and we wanted to understand a bit more about attention and if the things I'm about to tell you actually do work. So we did a small pilot test, and this is a little bit of that. So you can see here, this is me, and this is my eye tracking for this piece of content that was on here. You can't see one person's face there. That's the person I know. And I know I've met the other person that you can kind of see his face a little bit. I know him a little bit. I've got no idea who that other guy is. I don't even look at him at all within that space. So you're attracted to the things that are familiar to you. And then just to reiterate that, this one here is from another piece of content. And I tend to concentrate down here. Now, what happened was I can see where my eye started and where my eye stopped. This girl down here is a friend of mine, and I tend to concentrate on her there because I recognized her and I moved my eyes to her. But when someone else who didn't know her looked at that same page, that's what they did. Their eyes were all over the place. So we're attracted to things that are familiar to us. And I'm about to show you kind of how to get that within your content. So when your audience is scrolling through their phones, they stop and pay attention to what it is that you've got to say over all the other conflicting content that is out there. So did you know that there's 3 parts to your brain? We've got a reptilian brain, a middle brain, and an executive brain. So the reptilian brain is like where your fight or flight comes from. It doesn't understand any language at all, only understands visuals. This is why Instagram and other pictures online are really popular, because it gets to that reptilian brain. Then we've got the middle brain. The middle brain is driven by emotion. It's driven by mood. So to be able to get to that logical part of the brain, you need to go through the other 2 stages of the brain first. So you need to capture the attention from visuals, and then you need to have that evocative moment in there as well to then begin to say, this is who I am and this is what I'm trying to do for you. So it's not all about kind of all the logics. It's actually quite illogical sometimes. So what I've been doing is I've been creating metrics to help you be able to grab attention. And these are the 6 metrics I've created. Now, you can measure these on most of the social tools that I had up on screen before. Their tools are not set up that way, but there are an ability to overcome that. So we've got triggers, drivers, we've got memories, heuristics, personas, and relationships. Now, these are probably all words that you've heard before. And I'm going to go into a bit more detail into each of them to show you how you can use them. So we've got attention triggers. So these are the elements that may trigger attention, engagement, and behaviour in a specific audience. So everybody's audience is slightly different. I've got a couple of examples here. Have you seen these before? It's like we've given a picture to 25 graphic designers all across the world, and they're going to come back and they're going to show us their idea of beauty. Anybody read those, seen those before? Yep. So here we've got the original, and then this is what happens when they're sent out to all those designers. Now, this is really important because then we get to see that these are the faces within each of those countries that you need to have on there, because that is what those people see. That's what's familiar to them. If we had the original image in some of these, they would probably bypass it on their screen. So we need to think about what is familiar within that culture and what's familiar within that audience to grab the attention. Novelty also works. I really liked this when I seen it online, but then it's come from Brazil, and there's quite a lot of people being killed on their push bikes in Brazil. So when I see this, I just see a stag's head up there, like you probably all do as well. But when I was reading through the comments to do with it, there was a lot of people, it got lost in translation what was happening. They're going, I don't really understand this. It's not funny. It's not a great advert. But for us, we see that. So again, thinking about that culture and what's going to grab the attention and the imagination there. So the next thing we've got drivers. So these are unique elements that drive purchase, consumption, and the use of brands or products and services. So why are people buying your brand? Why are people using it? How do they choose to use it? How do they choose to consume it? Is it at home? Is it with a group of people? And where are they? Because once we get to that, we can then start to place these familiar things within our content. And that is going to grab more attention. So if we look at who's got a smartwatch? And what about a fitness band? Okay, a few people, great. So I was really surprised at this. And the main reason from analysing all these social media conversations why people were buying a smartwatch wasn't to check notifications. It was actually to run. I did not know that. I would have attributed that without doing the analysis that that would be a fitness band. Actually, when people want to buy a fitness band, it's coming up here that's to track steps. So I went in to do a gap analysis on how people are selling smartwatches and fitness bands. And it was quite interesting. So smartwatches tend to be sold on their ability for notifications. But if you think about it, more people are actually trying to use them to run. And I've not seen anybody running in a smartwatch advert. Have you? No, it's completely missing from there. If you look at something like Fitbit, they've got a really interesting advert. So they've got one here, and it's Bike Fit. Only 5% of people were buying a fitness band because they wanted to track their activity on a bike, but 40% of people wanted to do that from tracking steps. So then I went online into YouTube and I had a look at their different adverts. And here's the most famous and popular advert from Fitbit. Okay, not one person in there was walking. Did you notice that? We've got everything apart from the reason why most people want to buy a Fitbit. Now, that advert's been viewed over 4 million times. They've made subsequent adverts, and their type of exercise gets even crazier than that. And every time they're making another one of these adverts, there's less and less and less people viewing it. And again, not any one of those are someone just walking down the street. None of them. There's got all this crazy stuff. So they're missing really what it is that their customers are trying to buy for. So that's a bit more about why we need to use these drivers, is to get that familiarity there. So the next thing we've got is memories. So the next two metrics are probably my most favourite. These memories are accumulated memories or contact and direct experience with brands, products, and services in your daily life. Now, interestingly, because of social media and from speaking to other people and things, these memories might not be your memories. They might be other people's memories. Because you're reading about these memories all the time. People are sharing experiences online constantly. Probably the best example of this is I had a girl who worked for me, and we had done our PhDs together. And there was this guy, and I don't really dislike many people, but I really disliked this guy. And every time his name was mentioned, I'd be like, oh. And then one day, we were at a meeting, and someone mentioned his name, and she just went, oh, hate that guy. She's never met him before. Completely transferred that across to her. So how does that work in a brand experience? So I had to go to Slovenia for work. You know, it's really difficult to get to Slovenia from Scotland. In fact, it's really difficult to get anywhere from Scotland. I had to take 3 flights to get to Slovenia. It's like 1,077 miles away. I probably could have driven quicker if I drove, but I don't. So I had to take a flight. And I had zero control over this because someone else was booking the flights for me. And I'm a bit, because I fly a lot, I've got my favourite airlines. And these guys were trying to make me fly Air France. And I said, no thank you, don't want to fly Air France. And they're going, oh, but it's only like, it's like 6 hours and you'll be here, it'll be fine. I'm saying, I don't want to fly Air France. I'm going to go, and I'm going to go and check to see what airline I want to fly with, what's the alternatives. So my alternative, they could have got me there in 1 day. My alternative was I would fly EasyJet and I would stay in London overnight. I would then fly on a British Airways flight the next morning and I would get out to Slovenia. And then on the way back, it was a bit crazy. And they went, Jillian, you're nuts. Like, come on. It's like, why aren't you flying Air France? There's a really good airline. I was determined I was not flying Air France. I was looking for other routes. I was going out via Germany. I was going everywhere. And then I had to sit and question myself and going, why don't I want to fly this airline? I'm making it really difficult for myself to try to get there. When I could get there was 2 flights on the way there and 3 flights on the way back. Who goes to Paris to then go to Amsterdam to come home? That's me quite a lot these days. So I thought, why don't I want to fly Air France? Does anybody know the reason? Guess? No? So I thought about it, and then I thought, see, in the past 5 years, any time that I've had to fly near French airspace, they've been on bloody strike. So now you're telling me that I'm going to have to fly with Air France into Paris and then go out. I'm never going to get there. I'm just not going to get there. And then getting home is going to be a total nightmare because they're always on strike. It actually turns out that I've been on Air France about maybe 5 times since that flight at the end of last year. And I've had a great experience. And you still get your free glass of wine. And you still get fed. So British Airways are like, no, thanks. But that was an indirect experience. I had never experienced anything to do with Air France before, and I was adamant that I was not purchasing them. So why aren't people purchasing your brand, or why are people purchasing your brand? How does other people's experiences and memories shape the way that they view you? And we can get all this from social media. So in my case, if it's something like Air France, where it's I cannot purchase you because of something that's out with your control, how do we can then begin to tell a story and tell a narrative around trying to circumvent that and trying to challenge that thinking? Because anybody bought a fridge freezer before? A few people? Was it difficult? I nearly cried. So I went on to John Lewis, because that's just where I buy things. And this is what I seen. And I was like, my God, this is not going to go down well. So we've got the fridge freezer there, and then we've got this wall of text. Now, it doesn't stop there. There's another 2 pages of this stuff. It's like, how am I supposed to know what I want to buy? So I thought, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and I'm going to read about why people purchase fridge freezers and how they use them, right? So I did, and I went away and I analysed about 2,000 reviews. And then I went back to all the stuff to do with fridge freezers, and I thought, right, okay, so where is all of this in here? So that fridge freezer that I was looking at, on the manufacturer's website, they tell me about all this, and it's slightly better than the John Lewis stuff I may add, but they're telling me about this super cooling. I think that's super freezing there. And then there's super cooling. I am going to buy a fridge freezer. It's going to do that. No, that's why I'm buying it. So why are you reinforcing this? And then you're telling me all about this absolutely brand new technology that you've got, and it's the best technology ever. I'm just like, is it reliable? So going back to the reviews, what I found is that the relative size of the space is extremely important. But in John Lewis, they told me that there was 373 square litres. Does anybody know how big that is? Can you fit a person in it? Can you fit a chicken in it? Like, how much can you put in there? There was not one picture on that John Lewis website of a fridge with any kind of food products in it. So you cannot understand how big that is. So, and then I went away to check other people, and it's really common that they don't have it. Again, that's just coming up with some of the bits there from the size. The next one, which nobody ever gets, was noise. Noise reduction sells fridge freezers. Super cooling and super freezing does not sell fridge freezers, because that's why you're going to buy it. But if you tell me that there's going to be no noise or very little noise, then you're going to win me over, because I don't want to hear that hum all night long. I want to be able to sleep. But nobody has ever mentioned that at all. So if you're selling fridge freezers, in your content, you want to put down that there's no noise or there's very little noise, and you need to be able to back that up. And then the next one, coming on to that, is reliability. So going back to them telling me that there's all of this different technology in this fridge freezer, and I mean, this is the first time I've bought one, so I'm kind of involved in this process because it's my money. Nobody questioning whether it's going to be reliable or not, because all they're mentioning about is all this technology that I have absolutely zero clue. It's gone over my head, it's too much. So when you need to sell fridge freezers or anything, you need to go back and find out what it is that people are looking for, and they're making their shortcuts, and then start to place these images and this narrative within your own content, and even in your website, because clearly John Lewis's site is not set up for selling stuff, which is interesting, given the fact that they're really popular. So the next thing that we move on to is personas. So every audience and every person, in fact, is made up of different characteristics. And we need to find out kind of where those characteristics are similar, and then how they then impact upon the message that we push out there. So probably the most famous example that's floating about in this just now is from Cambridge Analytica and their involvement in Brexit and the Trump election. Has anybody read that online? Few people. So they use lots and lots of different kinds of data to be able to profile people and then deliver their messages via social media based upon their personality. But everybody in this room with any brand can do this from social media conversations as well. You don't need to go as deep into the data just now. So there's different tools out there that you can use and that will come up and will show you how your audience, these personalities profiled. And they tend to work on the big five or the ocean framework. So within each of these, you can see kind of, this was Marks and Spencer's audience. This is how they're made up. So all of these different 5 points then impact upon what trigger words and what content these people are going to look for. So someone with really high emotional stability, these are the people who tend to get a little bit neurotic. So things like safety is really important to them. So if you're selling cars and tires, which I've noticed, I did a study on the tires and how tires are sold now. And they're sold on how fast you can go and it still grips to the road. Someone who's got really high emotional stability isn't going to like that. They need to know that they're going to be safe. So then there's other people with, if I score really highly in the conscientiousness, and these guys, they really like technology and they really like innovation. So there's different words and captions and phrases round about that that's going to grab their attention. And this is exactly what happened with Trump and in Brexit. And they were worked out kind of how these personality profiles of people then impact upon what it is that they look at online, which is really interesting. And you guys can all do that too. The final one, the sixth one, is the relationships. So these are the connections between people. So everybody talks about influencer marketing just now. And I did a talk for a company on influencer marketing. And we put up lots of different people on the screen. And they would tell me if they were an influencer or not. And their biggest view for deciding whether or not they were an influencer was how many people followed them. That doesn't make an influencer. The connections and the relationships behind that person make them an influencer. So what we're looking for is we're looking for the person that's the hub of the different spokes. Because to be able to get something viral is not just going to one community, it needs to spread into many different communities. So we need to find who those connectors are. And then those are the people that we try to target more personally with our content to help spread that message out. So it's not necessarily the big influencer who is believed to be an influencer who's going to charge you a lot of money. There's probably about 4 or 5 other people underneath them which you can work with more readily. So let's put this into practice a minute. This is my best friend. She's a jewellery designer. She does pretty well. And she started on Instagram. She hates social media, by the way, loathes it. And she was kind of forced to go on. And she does Instagram quite a bit. And then Instagram changed their algorithm and she came back and she was moaning at me about it. So I went in and had a look and I did a quick audit on her work. So this is something that she would normally post out. It's a ring. Looks quite beautiful though, doesn't it? But she was always complaining about it. And I said, look, you're going to do me a favour and just get a picture with someone wearing a ring. And she did that. And it's completely changed all of our social media. That got over 200% more engagement. She even got people phoning for orders compared to what the last one was like. And when I've gone in to analyse other jewellers, they just put product shots up because the product shots are easy to get. But if you start to show how it's going to be consumed and what it's going to look like, then you're going to get more. And it's these small, simple nudges within your content, within your communication that can make a massive difference to your business. It's just knowing how people consume and want to consume what it is that you're selling. So thank you very much. I'll be around most of the day, so if you've got any questions, then just come and find me at breaks. But thank you.